I hope you all can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Super. Thank you so much. So very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. For some of you, good morning and good afternoon. I know people from different parts of the world have registered for this webinar. My name is Zahid Mubarak, and I'll be your presenter and host for this event. We are going to have this conversation for another almost 2 hours. Congratulations that we are celebrating the International Human Resource Day today, 20th May. In fact, World Federation of People Management Associations, which is an association of almost 660,000 people all over the world. They have declared this day, and it's almost the 4th year that they are celebrating it. This is to complement the efforts and just to recognize the contribution of the HR professionals, because the HR professionals always struggle. They combat with the problems that arise at the workplace, not only the problem, but the opportunities. During the COVID situation, HR faced a new dilemma, and it came up with a wonderful concept of the hybrid and the flexible work environment. In the post-COVID situation, the phenomena was different. Mental health, flexibility, agility, hybrid work environment, engagement. These are some of the ongoing challenges that the HR is battling with successfully, and all HR professionals need recognition and appreciation for their hard work. We are celebrating this day. This is being celebrated worldwide, and HR Matrix, I think you all are well aware, it has a very strong mission, absolutely unconventional mission. We started HR Matrix more than a decade ago. Today, you see the HR Matrix as a part of the disclosure at the board level, the ESG by the regulators. But we took this vision almost more than a decade ago when we formed this company. We were of the view that HR needs to be taken very seriously by the board directors in terms of its criticality. We brought in the concept of the competency-based HR in Pakistan, because traditionally the concept was that you don't need to have a defined set of competency to be in HR. And that has raised the visibility, recognition, and the positioning of the HR at the top level. We also introduced the global DEI benchmark standards. Not only that we introduced, but we took part in the development of the standards. So DEI standards was developed by the 3 authors worldwide, including 112 global experts. Fortunately, I was part of it. The SHRM HR competency framework was developed by 33 nations, 129 focus groups in 29 cities across the world. I personally participated in the focus group discussion in Las Vegas. And then the HR standards, because there was no standards in the HR, finance, accounts, engineering, all professions have standards. So in, I think, past more than 14 years, the ISO is developing the standards, and the 2011, it started this mission. Fortunately, HR Metric was the only company in the Asia which was invited to Washington, DC to be part of the standard development process. And by now, more than 30 standards have been created. And in this process, we interacted with the global standards bodies, including the American National Standard Institute, the British standards, France standards, German standards, Italy standards, Indonesia standards, Singapore standards, and many others in a face-to-face environment. The HR Matrix is the only SHRM partner in Pakistan. Most of you would be aware that SHRM, for the Society for Human Resource Management, the world's largest HR association, having more than 340,000 members in 180 countries. This organization has life for more than 75 years. It's constantly working for the advancement of the HR professional, and it is it has its partners in almost 75 plus partners all over the world, including Pakistan, and amazing wealth of resources. People say that CEO turns to you and you turn to SHRM. Everything under one umbrella you can get to drive your organization forward. So loads of resources. Our basic mission is that HR can add better value to the organization when it has competencies, because you see the finance risk, audit, information technology, all professions driven by the competency-based framework. So HR is not an exception. And in this regard, as I mentioned earlier, we already brought in the concept of the SHRM body of applied skills and the knowledge, which is a research-based frameworks in collaboration with almost 32,000 professionals and the employers worldwide. It's a framework consisting of the 9 behavioral and 14 technical competencies. The behavioral competencies include the leadership, which further comprises of the leadership and navigation, diversity and inclusion, ethical practices. In the interpersonal cluster, you have the relationship management, communication skills, and the global mindset. And under the business clusters, you have the business acumen, analytics, and consultations. 3 technical domains for the HR, including the people, organization, and the workplace, that has got further sub-competencies. So all the competencies are given on your screen, except one of them, which is only applicable within the United States. Rest all are global and applicable. So in order to understand what is the extent of the value creation, how HR can play its role in a better way, and how the HR is actually doing, that's the scope of the conversation today. We have an amazing galaxy of speakers today. So I would like to introduce all the speakers one by one, and we would like to have this interesting conversation. Before we proceed to the speakers, I would like to conduct a short perception survey, and just to get the insight of the people who are on this call, as what they perceive about the HR, and this would help us in understanding, determining the current baseline. So I would like you to attempt a short survey, and I would like to enable the survey, and would request you to attempt it. Give me a moment. Okay, we'll come to the survey subsequently. I'm facing some technical glitch, so I think if Rahmat Hasni Saab is around, we would like to request him for the presentation, because he's also interested to leave a little earlier because of his own engagement. So Rahmat Hasni Saab, are you there?
Assalamualaikum, Zahid. I'm here.
Yes, sir. Wonderful. Thank you
Can
so
you-
much for your
Can you hear
participation.
me?
We can hear you very well. I can understand your pressing commitment. Thanks a lot for making it convenient, and we look forward to hear your thoughts. So over to you. But please allow me to give a brief, very short introduction, and then we will continue. Okay, so I think Rahmat Hasni Saab really doesn't need any introduction, but so I think just for the convenience of everyone, he's the president of the National Bank of Pakistan, and with a robust career spanning over 3 decades in the banking sector, Mr. Hasni has held various senior roles, including the group chief of the corporate and investment banking at International Bank. He is recognized for his expertise in the corporate finance, investment banking, and the risk management. Mr. Hasni holds an MBA from Institute of Business Administration, Karachi. Under his leadership, National Bank focuses on the enhancing digital banking services and improving financial inclusion. His strategic vision and commitment to the innovation drive bank's growth and operational excellence. So over to you, Hasni Saab. Thank you.
Thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Zahid and HR Metrics for giving me the opportunity to speak here. Always a pleasure, and for arranging this symposium uh, um, to celebrate International HR Day. Um, I think the area that I'm going to be talking about, and I think it's important, is to talk about the fundamental um, connect or the partnership that exists between a CEO and the chief HR officer in the modern organization, especially with the perspective of a public sector entity. And I think that it is a unique partnership that exists, which I've had the pleasure of experiencing and using so that to the benefit of the organization itself. In this regard, I think it's very important to look at what competencies um, that a chief HR officer should be bringing to the table as we go into this relationship, and so that the organizational development can continue in a seamless manner and in line with whatever the strategic vision of the board and the chief executive is for that organization. In this regard, I think we can break up the relationship into 2 or 3 important areas. The first is obviously business acumen, both on the part of the chief HR officer, but also in terms of the kind of HR quality that needs to be attracted or developed within an organization itself. That partnership of the CEO and the implementation by this chief HR officer is a key towards the improvement of the overall systems of the bank, especially the HR aspect of it. And this can span all the way from the highly technical, which would be the IT side HR development, to, in the case of a bank like ours, to the teller at the counter. All of those areas of the bank are important for the HR to be able to develop in parallel and simultaneously. And for that, the HR department group and the chief of HR in an organization such as ours plays a key role to try and bring together the kind of leadership, to give the direction to attract talent and groom it in the right way for everyone, for the betterment of the organization and the customers. On top of all that, I think the real interesting aspect that the HR head brings to the table is the ability to be a partner to the chief executive officer, to be a partner with the chief executive officer in terms of bringing together leadership and being able to bring together the key HR, not the HR, but all the direct reports together and navigate in a competitive environment like the banking sector in Pakistan is. To be able to undertake that, the HR has to be able.
दरवाजा बंद करो, मैंने यहाँ बैठना.
The HR has to be able
दरवाजा बंद
to.
कर दो.
Hasan Saab, there is some voice somewhere. Please allow me to mute everyone.
Ji.
Okay. Ghazala,
Ji.
would you like to please mute it? Thank you. Sorry for the interruption.
No problem. What I was going to say was an organization such as ours, which is the National Bank of Pakistan, 15,000 odd employees from Gwadar to Gilgit. you come across a lot of diversity, both in terms of cultural, as well as obviously the gender, male-female ratios, etc., and cultural thought processes in each part of the country. Now, the challenge for HR and for the organization is to be able to bring together all of these people with different thoughts and values and be able to work in one line, work in a direction which is for the overall betterment of the organization. And in that, the ability of HR to be able to understand and be able to bring together the cultural diversity into a solid single thought process. That's key in HR policy, as well as all the related aspects of performance culture, inculcating a performance culture, values, and so that the vision of the organization can be met based on meritocracy. That is a real challenge usually in a state-owned enterprise and a public sector entity. But I'm happy to say that in National Bank, we are trying our utmost and continue to improve our overall stance with regard to how we are competing in the market with highly efficient private sector players. I cannot, as a CEO, underestimate or understate the importance of the HR function to be able to do that. The third, and I think the most important aspect of the chief HR officer, is that in a lot of ways, this is not, I guess, textbook in that sense, but the chief HR officer also becomes a confidant of the CEO, especially in matters of HR and selection, appointment of people, the right people for the right job, the evaluation of their personalities for that position, as well as their skill sets. This is important because in National Bank of Pakistan, we're always going through a change management, and there are change management theories, the Carter's 8 steps, and Lewin's change management models provide a structured approach to driving successful transformation. But at the end of the day, I mean, at times I have to, as a CEO, sit down with my HR head and be able to say, well, okay, how do we go and do this? And how do we navigate this in the context of the cultural fabric of the organization? With a 75-year-old organization, it has evolved a certain culture of how things happen. And when we try and inculcate modern HR, for want of a better word, HR metrics in there, how to make this, to create ownership of that change, that requires a lot of understanding of how things will pan out once you inject an idea or a thought or a policy into the mix. In that sense, it becomes that relationship becomes key to this. And part of that is the fact that the chief HR officer and people that work under the chief HR officer in the HR department create strong bonds and relationships with the rest of the organization to be able to not only measure how things will be accepted, as well as to implement and create ownership of that. A lot of times, you can have a situation where, you've overpromised or cannot deliver what you're doing. So there has to be an understanding of all of those areas. So that at the end of the day, you're delivering sustainable outcomes to enhance organizational performance. In that context, I think the CHRO, as we say, if you look at it, it's about business acumen. As a partner, the chief HR officer has to have the business acumen and the understanding of the business of the organization to take it forward. Leadership and the ability to navigate the cultural diversities and the in very large organizations becomes a key role for the HR department as a whole, but specifically the chief HR officer. And the ability to be a consultant to the people in the organization, or the confidant for a lot of people in the organization, is key to driving sustainable value creation for an enterprise such as National Bank of Pakistan. And for any CHRO, for an organization such as us, these key areas are important, or are actually immutable needs for their role for them to be able to fulfill their role and contribute strategically to the organization's success. As we talk about it in the context of cultural change and a performance-driven, creating a performance-driven organization. One final thing I would say is, it's even more important when you are talking about an organization which is also undertaking a conscious effort for creating diversity and gender diversity in particular. Because HR policies and the way HR projects this entire aspect into a male-dominated business, in an organization, it's key, especially when there are a lot of it's a male-dominated environment with a lot of people from a very diverse cultural backgrounds. So when you put all of this together, an organization which is supposed to be or positioning itself as a performance-driven organization with an agenda to increase inclusivity and diversity, the role of the CHRO within the organization, especially with the relationship with the CEO, becomes key. And Zahid Saab, I realize this is International HR Day. So I would just like to recognize all the HR professionals and the pivotal roles in the respective organizations, and especially our very own at National Bank. And I wish them the best and their commitment to growth and development. And I look forward to listening to this as long as I can and take any questions. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Haseen Saab. I can relate to your problem for the reason that state-owned enterprises got its own dynamics. And you talked about the business acumen, the diversity, particularly the cultural diversity, the ethnic diversity, the age diversity that the bank has. Definitely, all these are the unique problems and also the opportunities also. There's one participant asking a question that the state-owned enterprises, they have a problem with the perception. And to an extent, this is with regards to the culture of the organization, how this can be improvised, how this can be more customer-centric, how it can take care of the needs of the market. So they're interested to know that what is your current, some of the things that you're doing to improve the organization on that front.
Okay, thank you. Essentially, whoever asked that question is asking me to sort of talk about the entire strategy that National Bank is doing, but I'll put it into three broad areas. Okay, National Bank of Pakistan whoever asked that question is quite right
in talking about the fact that our perception needs a lot of improvement. That emerges from three areas in our view. The first is the fact that we have to improve what we deliver from the IT and the digitalization front. We have to be able to position ourselves as a modern bank. The second part, and I think the second part is obviously a perception of people talk about National Bank and they talk about branches and whether they look nice, bad, etc. And they don't look nice and they're not welcoming enough. So both of those aspects we're working on as separate independent strategies for improvement and renovation of the branch network, etc. And the IT. The third one, I think, is the much more important one. And that pertains to HR, which is you have to inculcate a culture of service quality, right? If you talk about the branch, the person, people who walk into a branch have to feel welcome in a branch, not just the overall look and feel of it, but the people there have to have a friendly outlook. And that is what is part of what we've had to do because we stretch across very different geographies, right? Someone in the middle of Balochistan, a branch in Balochistan, has a very different HR to perhaps a branch in Karachi, in the main branch, Karachi. And the people there are coming from very different backgrounds, both from their homes as well as from their education. So we have to collectively bring people to at least the minimum acceptable level of quality, if not so that, the branch in the middle of some rural area, at least the people there are of, they come to a level where they are amenable to customer service. And obviously the ones in the highly competitive areas like Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad in Pakistan, there we are able to also have at a higher level where they're able to at least provide a better service quality, which is comparable to some of the private sector players here. So those are the three areas that really are key. But I think the culture change aspect or the cultural improvement or the service quality aspect is a very HR-centric initiative that we've taken, and this is what we're working on. So those are the three areas that we're working on, if that answers the question.
Super. Yeah, thank you so much for
Yeah.
sharing the gist in a very concise way, and also acknowledging the efforts and contribution of the overall HR and particularly your organization. I'm sure Asam Beg and his team must be feeling very elevated. Okay, so yeah, so it's definitely a great effort. It's a constant struggle, I would say, because it's easier. The organization has to really combat on so many areas in order to overcome the challenges. Okay. So I think with this, we would like to move forward. And I know in the interest of the time, you would also like to, leave for your next engagement. Just a quick HR perception survey that I talked about. It'll just take, I think, two to 3 minutes. I'm launching it. I request everyone to attempt it. This would help us, in seeking reflection of what the speakers say about the HR and what the HR people themselves think about it. So I have launched this survey. It has got few typical questions, and those are based around the HR competency framework. So kindly attempt these questions. Very short and concise questions. You just have to tick something. Okay. Request everyone to attempt it. We have 84 participants, and I would request everyone to attempt it. Thank you so much for doing it. We would like to share the finding of the survey also with everyone. Okay, almost 50% people have done it. Please, everyone do it. Okay, after 1 minute, I'll close the poll and share the results. Okay, is there anyone left? Good. 30 more seconds. Last 15 seconds. Okay, I'm going to end the poll. And you should be able to see the results on your screen. Are you able to see it? Right. 95% of the people say that HR is now a competency-based profession, and it's not a generic profession. And the top competencies out of the behavioral set of 9 competencies, those are there, part of the standard. Top of the line is the leadership and navigation, the diversity and inclusion, and the business acumen. I think it's completely in line with what has been said by the speaker already. Among the functional competencies, there are 13 functional competencies. Top of the line is HR strategy. And you rightly said the business allyship, where you expect people to work shoulder to shoulder with the CEO, with a strong business acumen. And then, of course, the organization development. And I think out of the third one is the talent acquisition and so on. Thank you so much for your input. We would like to move to the next speaker. And once again, thank you so much, Rehmat Hasni Saab, for the wonderful talk in a very brief way. And we value your contribution. Please feel free to stay on the call, or you may like to disengage depending upon your convenience. And
Thank you, Zahid, for having me. I'll be on for a little bit and then I'll leave. Thank you.
Super. Okay, so we have now our next speaker. Muniza, thank you so much for joining earlier. I know I had to create this urgency for you. So Muniza Bhatt is a distinguished partner at the KPMG Pakistan with over 25 years of experience in audit and assurance services. She specializes in the financial services, providing strategic insights and compliance solutions. Muniza Bhatt is the first woman to become a partner at the KPMG in Pakistan. Reflecting her pioneering role in the industry, she holds a chartered accountant qualification as an advocate of diversity and inclusion within the passionate sphere. Muniza Bhatt leadership and expertise have significantly contributed to the KPMG reputation for excellence and integrity in Pakistani market. And she's a proud member of the Women for Board initiative and contributing very effectively toward the women empowerment mission within and outside Pakistan. So over to you, Muniza. Thank you so much for your presence. We look forward to hear your thoughts on the subject. That what's the critical HR competency that you expect from the CHRO for the sustainable value creation.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, everybody, and a very warm good evening to all of you. Wishing you all a very happy International Human Resources Day. It is a pleasure to be here and to share my thoughts about what CEOs look from CHROs in the context of sustainable value creation. It was a pleasure listening to Rehmat Hasni Saab as well, and quite a few points that I have jotted down from his talk that he just finished. very knowledgeable. Thank you, Sisa. So, coming to the topic, I think in my view, CEOs are generally looking to create business value and have competitive advantage. Now, creating business value is the primary job of any CEO, as they have a major stake in business value, whether they are hired and compensated by a board of directors, or they are an owner, partner, or founder of the entity. The CHRO, I feel, needs to know the set of metrics by which the CEO monitors this business value, along with the valuation method by which the CEO's performance is ultimately judged, and which can be enterprise value, market capitalization, or exit value, just to name a few mechanisms. So I think it is imperative that the CHRO understands what activities the CEO believes contribute most to business value, and whether their stake in the business is determined by their own investment in the company, a compensation scheme determined by the board of directors, or both. To deliver business value, CEOs need to create competitive advantage, which refers to the coveted position of differentiating yourself from the rest of the field, where customers would prefer your products and services over other choices that are available in the market, and would perceive you as delivering the greatest value. In practical terms, to achieve and maintain competitive advantage, I think your business needs to do a lot of things which are better than everyone else. The CHRO is the main collaborator, I would say, with the CEO in determining what those things are as they relate to the workforce and human capital, as they are often characterized as the greatest source of competitive advantage. So I must say that it's imperative to understand that people are a sustainable source of competitive advantage. Bringing about competitive success, I understand, requires a carefully developed plan, and one that is better than any plan a competitor could develop given the same resources. I would like to dwell a bit on this further, because I feel that every business has some form of a blueprint for the workforce that they want to build, both for the coming year and the longer term, aligning it with their growth targets. Now, blueprints are designed for the longer term subject and are frequently revised and substantially they're also updated, and they aim for superior workforce planning. If I can explain, the concept with the analogy of a game, so there are a game has a roster of star players, you have starters, you have position players, you have specialists, and then you have some reserves. So in the context of a business, you need to assemble a better roster. I feel that one that consistency turns the best performance, not one that has the most star players. I also believe that in order to remain relevant and up to date, every business tries to innovate. You need to become unique and stay unique, and that requires a lot of superior talent strategy. Strategy, I feel, is the buzzword over here, because you need to have a strategy in place of how you're going to retain that talent that you have, recruited. At the same time, I believe every business has a short-term playbook that is calibrated to business as usual and market fluctuations, directing what should be done and what level of performance is expected from people. What is required is a good playbook, one that manages changing conditions, assuring that you're always running at optimal capacity and have the right people to do so, no matter what the conditions are. So through superior capacity optimization, your short-term operations are always going to be on point. In short, I think workforce planning, talent strategy, and capacity optimization are the main areas where CHROs can add value for the objectives of the CEO. Over the years, we have seen CHROs, the task of transforming labor input into business output has profoundly increased in scope, and consequently planning the workforce is probably an executive level strategic planning activity now. The CHROs can accomplish such momentous tasks, I believe, by building a bridge to connect the workforce to the rest of the business and architected to enable business agility. This bridge connects the workforce to the rest of the organization and the workforce strategy to business results by mainly three things, I believe. So it's like balancing the tension between what the business aspires to do and what the business can afford to do. And secondly, I think supporting all the businesses done in both the short to medium term with a high performance workforce composed of the best talent for the work to be done. And last but not the least, I think the bridge also tries to reduce the gap between carrying the most business traffic possible in the short term in a variety of operating conditions. So in conclusion, I feel competitive advantage is the name of the game in business strategy. You really do have to perform better than others, and that includes planning better with agility. When we come to agility, I feel agile workforce planning enables the CHRO to determine the organization's unique ways by which they can attain competitive success, especially through business growth, innovation, and maximum operational capacity. Just as importantly, agile workforce planning illuminates the links between people, production, and profitability in all the areas where the organization could feasibly achieve competitive advantage. I would also like to draw attention to the recent, much talked about ESG initiative and the global traction that it is garnering. I think CHOs have an immense responsibility in promoting a culture that embraces ESG values and sustainability and helping CEOs in attracting and retaining talent, providing learning and coaching opportunities in the organization, and sustaining brand credibility for the respective businesses. Thank you, Zahid. So
Super.
this is these were my views actually.
Yeah, excellent. I think very good mix of the overall priorities. And you very rightly said that value creation is the core. And that comes to the, how smart the actually HR acts to provide a competitive advantage to the organization. And despite all kind of challenges, those are there. ESG definitely is the name of the game now. And as somebody, I think the management guru said that culture eats strategy for the breakfast. So a lot of strategies that the organization make, they're not able to be, implement because of the cultural issues. Okay.
Yes,
So
if I can add over here, because in our chartered accountancy profession, because they always emphasize that it's not hard working, it's smart working that really matters. So I think
True.
it's very important that one works smart. Like hard work is like naturally, it's like, one of the success factors, but smart working is also equally important that we need to achieve.
Very right. So, Monica, there's a question, and I would like to divert to you because you look at the market from a bigger standpoint, auditing the organizations, looking at the capabilities of the organizations, people management capabilities, and also the positioning of the CHRO. How do you see this evolution? Because in the first instance, it was more of an administrative function. It eventually moved to the operational role, day-to-day headcounts, reports and returns. And now the organizations, I think a good mix of the organization, of at least according to the global research, 33% of the organization have the HR in a strategic role. That means that not only that you said focus on day-to-day matters because they have to do it, but also keep an eye on the long-range issues and have the strategy in place to overcome those issues through the workforce planning. So to avoid any kind of surprises. So how do you see this evolution? Where do you see currently the market in terms of positioning of CHRO? Is it more tilted toward the operational aspect or the strategic ops aspect? I'm talking about the local market.
Yes, so Zahid, I can literally feel the evolution because some 25 years back when I started my career and I came into the corporate world, they used to, the terminology used to be HR and admin manager, and from there we have seen the evolution into like CHROs and director of human resources and all. So there's definitely been like progress and very successfully the progress has been attained, because it is no longer about just administration work. It is about managing your people and recognizing the fact that your people are your most coveted assets of a business. So I think the evolution has been very successful and it is there to go. And as I said, CHROs are a collaborator with the CEOs, because if you have not developed your workforce and your people as much as you're required to put your investment in and have them have a talent acquisition plan in place, have a retention policy in place, that is something that requires concentrated effort, a strategy, a structure in place, and only then I feel that businesses will be able to bear a proper food and have fruit of the efforts and also have competitive advantage. So I think, been one of the people who has viewed, has literally seen this evolution myself, from where it started and how it has become one of, like, a very, I would say, like, it's like a movement, I can say, where people have, like, really mushroomed into, like, becoming like a collaborator for the CEO, and also being, like, one of the pillars on which an organization stands, basically. So I think, along with the CEO, the CHRO has immense responsibility on their shoulders to, like, cater, nurture, as well as promote talent, and also make best use of the most coveted asset of an organization, which are its people.
Excellent. Okay, so Munisa, you are very active, I think, in the ICAP with the diversity and inclusion on the HR forum as well. Now that the ESG framework is in place, and that's a very good, I would say, tool to position HR more strategically. And if we relate to Pakistan, there are 11 key metrics in the context of the social segments. Do you see the organization readiness to have a proper disclosure on that front? And because in the course of the audit, I'm sure you would be getting some insight as to what extent the organization are ready or they want to be ready. And because ICAP also conducts some awards on the sustainability. So any insight on that front, because that has got, I think, a strong impact on the overall performance of the CHRO in the organization and how it is positioned in the board.
Yes. So, Zahid, as I said, like, ESG has gained so much traction, and then globally, along with accounting standards, which are the IFRS, now the Accounting Standard Board has issued S1 and S2, which are sustainability standards, and I think it's not whether they are ready or not, it's not by choice. They just have to now comply, because the SACB has also approved these standards, and they would now be applicable from next year. So, it is naturally, the organizations are not as ready as we would like them to be, but it is not something of a choice. They will just have to now, read up on those standards, get the required skill sets, see how the reporting has to be done, and then also have assurance on it. So as part of ICAP being an ICAP representative, we have also, like, conducted a lot of seminars and workshops on this matter. And, we are getting a lot of interest from people, because no, the global companies, actually, now they are going to be, like, they're tightening the noose, on their stakeholders, like, for example, their vendors and all. They want people who are in line with ESG requirements. So I would say the global companies are a little more ready and have more understanding of the whole process and the standards and what has to be done. And the local companies are, like, just following suit, because, even they have to, like, fulfill the export orders and all. And for that, so much stress is being laid on having stakeholders who are ESG compliant. So I think it is just a matter of time that everybody will need to just, become compliant, because the regulator is on the same page, the global, standard setting bodies are on the same page. Now it's just, a matter of time when everybody else will just have to, like, start, and you have to start from somewhere. So I believe from next year, the requirements of disclosure and reporting will come into place, and then assurance of those that reporting and that disclosure will follow suit. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much for giving us a very well-rounded view of the HR state of affairs. I think with this, we can move to the next speaker. And Munisa, feel free to stay on the call, or you may like to disengage depending upon your preference. We always feel very enlightened to hear your thoughts. And thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Zahid.
Okay. I think we have now also Amar Paracha with us. And in fact, I heard Amar Paracha many times on the social media. And I think it's at some occasion one-on-one also, where he talks about the fair, what you call the fair wages, market wages instead of the minimum wages. I'm not preempting his, the whatever he wants to say, but recognizing his contribution toward the overall empowerment of the HR. Amir Paracha, I hope Amir Saab is there. He is the CEO of the Unilever Pakistan, a position that he has held since February 2020, with over 2 decades of extensive experience at the Unilever. Amir Paracha has held various leadership roles, including Vice President of the Customer Development and Director of the Foods and Refreshments. He is known for his strategic vision and commitment to sustainable business practices. He also served as the President of the Overseas Investors Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Paracha holds an MBA from Institute of Business Administration, Karachi. Under his leadership, Unilever Pakistan is focused on digital transformation and enhancing customer engagement, solidifying its market position in the country. Mr. Paracha is also actively involved in the several industry and community initiatives. So with this, I would like to request him to share his thoughts with us. And over to you, Mr. Amir.
Sir, from Amir Paracha's account, his secretary is logged in. So you can move to next speaker. He's actually in meeting. He will join us in 5 minutes.
Perfect. So perfect. Okay. So Sadaf, I hope you're there. Sadaf Hatif, are you okay with it? If we have your thoughts first, I would like to introduce you first. Are you okay with it?
Sure, Zaitap, I'm available. Please go
Perfect.
ahead.
Thank you so much for the flexibility. So I would like to read out the introduction of Sadaf Hatif. Sadaf Hatif is one of our certified community members, SHRM community. Sadaf Hatif is the CEO of the HRSC outsourcing in Pakistan, leading Pakistan operations and strategic direction with extensive experience in the human resources and outsourcing. She is recognized for her expertise in the talent management, organization development, and the HR solutions. Sadaf Hatif has played a pivotal role in expanding HRSG client base and service offerings, positioning it as a leading HR outsourcing firm in Pakistan. She holds a degree in business administration and is known for her leadership skills and commitment to fostering inclusive workplace environment. Under her guidance, HRSC has achieved significant growth and a strong market presence. So over to you, Sadaf. Kindly unmute yourself. Okay, thank you.
Welcome, everyone. And a happy HR International Day to all my distinguished HR professionals. It is good to see this fraternity growing. Today, we would be discussing what the CEOs expect from HR. We are living in a very disruptive environment and things are not as they used to be earlier. The challenges of HR are increasing day by day. As the world is becoming tough and as the working environment are getting tougher, so are the expectations from the HR department getting tougher day by day. So the expectations from organization to organization vary, but certainly one thing is common, that is they are very high because they are the bridge between the workforce and the management. Today's management is very diverse. We have a multi-generational workforce, and the role of HR is to ensure that they speak the language that is for both. They can't have a tilt towards one, that is management, or towards the employees. Managing the balance is what is pivotal for the HR. HR, as rightly said by Zahid Saab, is becoming strategic, and it is still not very positive to see that only 33% of the HR is strategic. We would like to see it above 70%. And I'm very sure the way things are moving, that day would be very near that we would see more and more HR, more and more CHROs playing a very, very strategic role, and they are part of the board everywhere. So now talking about what we expect from HR. As a CEO of an HR company and somebody who has been an HR professional at the start of a career, to me, HR role is very, very dear and near to my heart because I see they are the flag bearer of the culture of an organization. And as rightly said by the earlier two distinguished speakers, culture is at the epitome of everything for an organization. Unless we have the right culture, no strategy would work. Culture is what builds the organization. Culture is what breaks the organization. So HR has to play a role where they are at the center stage of building the culture of an organization. When we talk of competencies, HR is no more a generic role that we have seen in the survey also that Zaid circulated a while ago. HR is no more a generic role. It requires competencies, and these competencies are very, very pivotal for the success of any organization, not just the professionals, but for the success of the organization. You just can't master every competency, but at least one has to be a jack of all and master at least few which are most critical to an organization. It depends on the organization to organization and the expectations. So for me, if I talk from the perspective of a CEO of a human resource company, 3 competencies are very, very crucial for the HR department or the CHRO of my organization, starting from business acumen being the first and the foremost. Second is critical thinking, and the third is communication collaboration. I will start with communication because that is crucial. And post-pandemic, it has become very, very important because it was only the communication channels that kept the business going during those days. Had it not been the communication through various channels, through various means, organization would have doomed to disaster in those days. And so was the case in our organization. We have a employee base of over 60,000 plus employees. And it was the role of our HR and the line HR, which we call service delivery, that maintain an effective communication with all the employees spread all across Pakistan through various channels that kept the organization going and that kept the other clients also going, because we were the service provider for a lot of organizations, and had we not developed that communication channels, we would not have been successful. What is at the center stage of all the communication is empathy, transparency, and simplicity. It is not about the language. It is about getting your message across. And HR has to understand what language do they speak to make their employees understand what is the message, what needs to be sent across. And I think my HR did a fantastic job in doing that. Second important critical competency that I would like to highlight is critical thinking. HR has always shied away from numbers. You have to be proficient with numbers. Today is the era of numbers and analytics and data. And if you are unable to decipher information from data, you would not be able to support your management, support your CEO with the right decision making. Decision making is dependent on right insights. Data is of no use unless it has meaningful insight for decision making. So this is an area where HR has to excel. HR has to gain mastery and be very, very comfortable with. Again, I will share an example where we were struggling with employee motivation when the service delivery team would work late, and the support team, service delivery team is the front end team that handles the clients, and the back end team, which is mostly shared services and finance. So they would have to work late because of the service delivery team. Service delivery team is client facing. They sit late to ensure the customer is satisfied. They at times have to work with different zone clients also. And that was the reason why the support team would also work late. That was creating friction and dissatisfaction and upsetting the work-life balance for the employees. HR got to the root of this problem, had a session with all the employees, different surveys were done just to identify how can we address this problem. And then ultimately they came up with a very smart solution. That was, we started having flexi schedules for the service delivery team. One would come at the regular hour and the other would come at an extended time, so that they could sit late, ensure that all the last moment requirements of client are met, and at the same time they would ensure that they complete the pre-work for the backend team, so that when they come the next morning they have enough time, enough work to complete before the second schedule of service delivery starts. So it was a creative way of coming up to a conclusion that not only enhanced the efficiency, the work quality, but it enhanced the employee engagement also. So it's very important that HR department works closely with the team, understand the problem, should have their pulse reading at all times, so that they can take creative corrective measures proactively rather than waiting for the situation to aggravate and result in unnecessary issues for the organization. Third and last, but most important, is business acumen. If HR understands the business in and out, they understand the value chain of every activity that a business is involved in, can certainly be a trusted partner for the CEO, because that way they understand what is required, how an activity is performed, and how a simple activity has an impact on the bottom line of the organization. When they think from this perspective, when they see things from this lens, the outcome is very, very different, because HR has the challenge of ensuring business growth through productivity and through performance of its employees. And performance of employees can only be attained if they are motivated, engaged, they feel valued, and they understand the contribution that they are making to the organization. All this seems simple, but has a lot to do to make sure that this value creation is understood and drilled down to the lowest level. Each and every person in the organization is there to create value. And the only person, only department that can instill this feeling is HR. And that is why HR has to understand the complete value chain. And they would come up with solutions that at times others don't even think. I would again share an example that we, being the service provider for a lot of multinational banks, used to do verification of, were compelled to do verification services for a lot of banks. And the requirements were next level. We used to do simple verification, but these requirements were very, very different. We gave the task of sourcing and managing the whole department to HR, and initially they struggled, but they came up with good talent, and we were able to set up a department. Initially, it was very difficult because we were unable to manage the expectations of both the departments. There were conflicts. The front-end department had to answer the client due to delays, and the back-end department was dependent on universities and previous employers, so there were frictions. Again, HR came into play. They ensured that the collaboration is there. They made sure whatever could be done through system intervention, through training, they did that. And once everything was smooth, then came the exit of these banks from Pakistan. So a sizable department was about to become redundant. And that was the time when the CHRO came up with an idea that why don't we start this as a standalone service? All organizations need verification services. Previously, we were offering it for our outsourced employees only. Why don't we offer this service for the FTEs of organization? This idea was an instant hit, and in 18 months' time, a cost center was turned into a profit center. And today, after 7-8 years, it's a significant contributor to the overall revenue of HRSG. So it's just how proactive the HR was and how the business acumen competency was was put to use by the HR department, that we were able to add on a service offering, which is mashallah doing very good for the overall organization. So the crux of the matter is HR has to get out of the silos, understand, be part of the business, be part of every department, and make sure that they have the insight of what the organization would look like in years to come. If they do not have that foresight, they would not be able to develop the talent pool for future. And that is what is required. HR is faced with a lot of challenges. We talk about other departments, what the CEO expect, what the marketing expect, but we need to understand there are a lot of challenges for HR also, and we should understand that there is dearth of talent. So for finding that talent, they need the support from the management to ensure that they have given enough time, ample resources to ensure they hire right. When they hire right, the first step is taken in the right direction. And with all this, they can offer better solution to the management and help in sustainable growth for the organization. Without HR, I don't think we can think of getting the right talent. Without HR, we can move in the right direction. So it's very, very important that we are also empathetic to our HR department and show some sign of acceptability when they are struggling. So I will close by saying the behavioral competencies of business acumen, talent, critical thinking, and communication are essential for HR professionals to effectively support the strategic objectives of the organization, to drive success, to drive the vision and purpose of the organization. By demonstrating these competencies, HR professionals can establish themselves as strategic partners, trusted advisors, and change agents within the organization, contributing to a culture of innovation, collaboration, and high performance. Again, my emphasis is culture of innovation, collaboration, and performance. And at the center of all these things lies the HR. Thank you.
Fantastic. So Sadaf, looks like you've done a lot of research, market research, and in determining the priority. Because I'm trying to, see its relationship with what is happening worldwide. So on one hand, we are here together to recognize and advocate the importance of the HR, appreciate their efforts, but it's also a good time to do a self-appraisal and determine where do we stand. Realistically, according to the global findings, the business acumen, where being a strong ally with everybody wants to be ally with the CEO, but to understand the business mechanics and the financial insights requires more effort, more rigor. The HR is honestly not very strong on that area. Critical thinking, using numbers, ratios, strong business case, and looking at the bottom line factors and not just the gut feelings and the personal discretions and the whims. Going beyond that, that's again area where the HR has to come up according to the SHRM competency framework. And the communication, as you said very rightly, not waiting for the fire to happen, but to preempt the fire. Now you look at the market, not only for your own organization, but having an oversight of 60,000 base of employees is a huge workforce. How do you see the overall HR leadership on these three? I'm talking about the aggregate. I'm not talking, obviously every organization has got a different state of affairs, but how do you see the overall HR leadership performing on these three competencies that you have mentioned: communication, critical thinking, and the business acumen? Very briefly.
Thank you, Zahid Saab. It's a very tricky question, but what I said, I know that the results are not very positive, as I said earlier also. And as per a Conferry report, CHROs lack the skill of business acumen, and this is the skill that they lack the most. 41% in this. competency alone, so which the percentage is way too high. And they actually have to work on this to ensure that the future is very different. We can only increase the strategic percentage if they work on this competency alone. That is rather two competency. One is business acumen and the other is critical thinking. Without these two competencies, they can never acquire the strategic role in an organization, and it will always remain a more operational or tactical role. So HR professionals have to work on this. There is improvement, but there is a long way to go. And they need to understand that only words would not make a difference. We see a lot of buzz, we see a lot of I would say a lot of music in this area, but the reality is far from what the situation should be. In terms of communication, yes, there is improvement. I think the social media and the social HR platforms has made life easier for HR professionals to establish better communication channels with their employees. Now there are multiple avenues through which they can communicate and have wider access. But at the same time, I still think there is a lot to be done. This area is still better compared to the other two competencies, but a lot needs to be done. The aggregators, if you ask me, are not very positive, and especially in terms of Pakistan, we are lagging behind miserably compared to other parts of the world.
Very nice. So Sadaf, I'm getting a very positive comments regarding what you have said. In fact, indeed, it reflects the market sentiments, and thank you so much for raising more awareness and highlighting the importance of it. So with this, we would like to thank you for your wonderful thoughts and move to the next speaker. Thank you so much, Amir, for joining us. And I'm sorry for the inconvenience because of the some time adjustment. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, a short introduction about the Amir Paracha. He's the CEO of the Unilever Pakistan, a position that he has held since February 2020. With over 2 decades of experience at the Unilever, Mr. Amir Paracha has held various leadership roles, including the Vice President of the Customer Development and the Director of the Foods and Refreshment. He is known for his strategic vision and commitment to sustainable business practices. He also served as a president of the Overseas Investor Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Mr. Paracha holds an MBA from Institute of Business Administration, Karachi. Under his leadership, Unilever Pakistan has focused on the digital transformation and enhancing customer engagement, solidifying its market position in the country. Paracha is also actively involved in the several industry and community initiatives. So over to you, Amir, and looking forward for to hear your thoughts on the subject.
Thank you, Zaid Saab. And thanks for inviting me to really connect at this forum. I would like to start off, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a very interesting topic, and I've been on and off listening to the conversation, the kind of questions being asked. And while I'm not an HR person, I'm in fact one of the people making the lives of HR people a bit difficult. Yet as I do that, I realize that no one will be more critical to the success and value of companies than their humanity. And then one who is a shepherd of this humanity within the workplace. And once I read an interview of Microsoft CEO, Satya Nadella, he said 2 executive committee members are the closest ally of CEO. One is the CFO and other is the CHRO. And in today's world, the way we do business has drastically changed. Over the past few years, Pakistan has undergone massive shocks in the macroeconomy in terms of inflation, brain drain, political instability, and last but not the least, a tectonic shift being experienced globally in the new ways of working, particularly post-COVID. As organizations continue to navigate the local and global uncertainty, the role of the CHRO remains at the heart in the face of adversity to drive sustainable value creation for the organization, which happens to be the today's subject. But how do you do when everything you offer in your value creation, everyone else does too, and that too soon? Remember the age-old adage, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And I heard Sadaf talking about the culture as well with a similar passion. This sharp insight captures the full truth of what drives successful organizations. While strategies can be planned and tactic devised, it is the underlying culture that determines the sustainability of success. And who else can be the supreme custodian of the company culture? It's no one but the CHRO. And I think so that's what I want to basically elaborate more on this. An employee value proposition, which in normal terminology we call EVP, no matter how strong, is never unique for life, which makes the employee value proposition tricky too. Anyone will pay more, give bigger titles, faster growth, but no one can manufacture culture and values that you have weaved into your core. I'm a big fan of Peter Drucker, and Peter Drucker once famously said that company cultures are like country cultures. Never try to change one. Try instead to work with what you have got. And this recognizes that what can be inherent in your organization, working with its strengths and making it into the sticky factor that no one is willing or easily able to leave behind. As you know, we all have moved on, and yes, with good reasons, but some places it's been harder to move on from, as within our core we feel like we are leaving behind a part of ourselves. And this is the ultimate success of the CHRO. While capability, talent, career, growth, and performance are indeed critical, they are a natural outcome of any company where people feel a sense of mission beyond money, ownership beyond accountability, and relationship beyond responsibility. Corporate cultures matter. How management chooses to treat its people impacts everything for better or for worse. This insight from Simon Sinek reminds us that the behavior of a leader sets the tone for the entire organization. Effective leaders model the values and behaviors they want to see, creating a ripple effect through the company. Because what is culture if not behavior at scale? This means that culture is not just about what is stated in the company mission or a vision statement, but is reflected in the daily actions and interactions of every employee. And each person plays a part in shaping the collective culture. I've realized that great cultures are an intangible asset. You feel them when you are within the four walls of a place, and they are infectious. Culture shapes how employees interact, make decisions, and live the company value. At our organization, the CHRO understands that culture is the one competitive advantage that cannot be copy-pasted. This unique culture becomes your true differentiator. And the CHRO, alongside his or her CEO, should be committed to creating a cultural advantage that resonates deeply with employee and beyond, through their values, their families, their happiness, and their sense of purpose. Now, let me share some inside stories of, say, of Unilever to basically make it come alive. I worked for this company for around 25 years now, here and outside Pakistan. But even as CEO, what I felt and experienced when our CHRO, along with our corporate department, did our first, what you call, parent team meeting was strangely unique. I felt the nervousness I once had felt as a child during parent-teacher meeting. But this time the tables were turned. I held my mother's hand and watch her nervousness transform into pride as she heard colleagues praise my work. And over 300 other probably felt the same with me as they shared their work lives with their parents, celebrating the people who have supported us throughout this journey, touring the office, taking photos, and shared meals, creating memories that underscore the connection our personal and professional lives. And similarly, when our HR function did one activity which we call Kids at Work, hundreds of employees could share their place of work with their kids. And while a boardroom and a ball pit don't go together, we saw that. Hundreds of kids running around the workplace, owning it. It is another level of psychological safety because we could never bring loved ones to a place we can't feel 100% confident about. And we have redefined our employees' value proposition to include not just our community at work, but also employees' families. And we had a summer camp right in our office last summer. And our function introduced another program similar, which is called Kids Who Work program for the children of our employees aged between 12 to 17 to experience our workplace. For 4 weeks, these young minds brought energy and creativity into our office, learning about the professional world where they're about to step in and helping them make informed career choices. Through this very immersive challenge, we encourage them to think from a very fresh perspective and explore how different parts of the business work together. Once again, our CHRO made an effort to ensure that connection sustained beyond departure, hosting our first ever alumni events meetup. It was a true testament to how Unilever never leaves you. And so many of those who are no longer work here turned up to celebrate old and meaningful relationships. From past to present, purpose is an especially important value proposition for the new generation. And any insightful CHRO would understand the significance. Today, workspace, especially the Gen Z, want purpose and meaning in the work they do and want to create a positive impact in their communities. And to do so, we want to mirror the mix of the country and operate as Unilever of Pakistan rather than Unilever in Pakistan, thereby giving back to Pakistani people. Our search for purpose begins with our onboarding, is the discover your own purpose workshop where employees go through a soul-searching exercise to identify their purpose in life and whether it matches what they are doing in their careers. And all these sessions are again led by the HR function and goes to show the importance that we as an organization. Another example of our dedication to a purpose-led culture is our initiative of living wages, where we basically launch a campaign that tankhwa guzare like nahi, jeene like honi chahiye. And as an organization, embracing the recognition that salaries should enable a life worth living, not just surviving. We gave everyone in the company a sense of purpose. Every Excel sheet, every PowerPoint, every factory line, to board meeting, to shop front, our HR function made everyone feel that we are working for something bigger than ourselves. And this came alive as Unilever of Pakistan and ambition to become the most soulful and most inclusive employer of choice. Culture plays an extremely important role in retaining talent. Therefore, the CHRO plays a critical role in building a culture conducive to learning, developing talent, and nurturing bonds at work. Humanism continues to be at the heart of our strategy for a chief human resource officer. Focusing on culture isn't just important, it's the ultimate value proposition from my perspective. A strong culture fuels innovation, performance, and competitiveness. It creates a cohesive environment where employees are motivated to their best, leading to a competitive edge that both enduring and unique. And the proposition is complemented by the ability of an organization to deliver on its purpose and business with speed and agility. I would like to share that I've come across in the research carried out by Bain & Company, and they assessed the relative productivity of a dissatisfied, satisfied, engaged, and inspired employees. So 4 types of employees. And through a research, it was proven that if satisfied employees are productive at an index of 100, dissatisfied at 71, which means 29% lower than a satisfied employee, an engaged employee is productive at 144, which means 44% more productive than the satisfied employee and 100% more than the dissatisfied employee. But then comes the real kicker. And that inspired employees, which is the ultimate point, are scored 225 on the scale. In other words, it takes 2.25 satisfied employees to generate the same output as one inspired employee. Building and maintaining a strong company culture is not just a strategic task, but a fundamental necessity. Everything else can be copied and pasted, but your DNA is uniquely your own. This is what I believe a CHRO alongside CEO can help create a sustainable value creation. Not only better grades or better pay or better titles, all of that is natural if your soul and your core feels aligned where you are. I'll stop here and thank you for giving me, the undivided attention. And yeah, I'll stop.
Wonderful. Very powerful conversation, Amar. It really motivates us, I think. And you talked about some of the reality-based things happening at the Unilever. And I would like to relate it with definitely with some of the global things. For example, the Tomo Ocean, which is the organization in the United States, carries out the evaluation of 500 Fortune companies. They find that 90% of value creation comes through the intangible. And that's the reality. And you mentioned about the purpose, definitely very lofty thing for everyone, particularly for the next generation. It's important for everyone. You talked about the sustainable value creation, which is at the heart of the purpose of the organization. And some of the things that are unique that you can call the unconventional thing that you're doing at the Unilever to promote that culture. For example, kids at the workplace, the alumni network. So definitely these are very remarkable initiatives. I want to understand, and I'm sure the other would also like to understand, how all these things correlate with the performance of the organization. Any performance indicator, I'm sure that you would have the tangible and the intangible performance indicators. So any insight on it so that it becomes a business case for the organization to, explore all these areas to, any thoughts on that?
No, so Zahir Saab, I think it's a very relevant question and very appropriate question, because at the end of the day, we are entrusted by the shareholders on their behalf to generate the ROI on the investments they have made on the company through investing in the shares, locally and globally. And therefore, the eventual yardstick happens to be, while this is all great, culture is great, kids at work and kids who work and purpose, and this is all fantastic. But is it all driving a higher productivity or not? Yeah. And I think so towards the end, when I basically referred to the Bain research, that there are 4 types of employees. One is dissatisfied, satisfied, engaged, and inspired. And we have seen that when employees are inspired, they're driven, they're engaged, because they feel that they are being taken care. They feel that they're feeling soulful. They come and they give 150% of them. Yeah. And when they give 150% of them, they produce competitive growth, both the top line and the bottom line. And to be honest, at Unilever Pakistan, we have experienced that, because in the last 3 to 4 years, since we have actually gone and doubled down on our purpose, we have always been a purpose-led company, but we've really doubled down big time. Our company has actually, size of doubled in the last 4 odd years. And we have grown competitively, and we basically have been recognized globally at a Unilever level as well. So what's important is the balance. You cannot skew the company towards culture that becomes very softy, and you cannot basically drive the company so hard that people only come to work and they feel burnt out. The right balance, where people come to work and they feel engaged and inspired, they find the work meaningful, they work while purposeful towards the end of the day, but they equally basically drive satisfaction that, they are driving competitive growth and they are growing in the outside market. So, a right balance is very important. So I call it dynamic equilibrium. Yeah? And you have to be constantly ensuring that dynamic equilibrium needs to be there. It's not a one-time you strike it. You have to constantly basically ensure that while you drive the right culture, you also need to basically keep ensuring that whether the performance is coming against or not. And if not, you need to basically strike that equilibrium, and therefore that dynamism is required.
Wonderful. So that kind of harmony between, you can call the inputs and outputs and the outcome is critical. Okay, so there's one question. The question is regarding the managing the millennials and the Generation Z. What kind of challenges do you encounter, if there are any challenges? And I would like to add on to this question that in the organization, when you have this kind of culture which is focused on integration, there are always the challenges of being conflict, because you have the people from all the age groups, Generation X, Y, millennial. So we would like to hear your thoughts on it. How do you manage their integration to work in a more harmonized way, in a singular direction, rather than being in conflict on some of the areas?
So I think, so Zahid Saab, as I've said it in the very beginning, that the whole world is going through a massive tectonic shift. And that's basically in the new ways of working, which millennials are now demanding. Today, the average size of Unilever Pakistan, the average age of Unilever Pakistan is 37 years old. And it's getting younger by the day. So it's a very young organization. I think so it will get further younger by the day. And therefore, it's important, that when we talk about purpose, all these millennials or Gen Zers, they basically prefer to, when they choose to, pick where they would like to work, they would like to first see, is the work they're going to be doing, is it basically add meaning to their life? Is the work purposeful or not? While the paycheck is important, but for them, that's the last thing on their priority list. What's more important is the meaningfulness that actually the work brings to them. So therefore, what we have been trying to do is how we navigate our organization towards, towards offering the millennials a workplace and an environment that is that suits their requirement. And hence, the two words are very important for any organization. One is the flexibility, and the other is agility. That how flexible the organization is, because earlier the organizations used to be very rigid in their policy framework. And earlier, the organizations used to be very, very agile, very, very one size fits all. Now you need to basically have a very agile organization. Earlier, the whole model to run the show was command and control. The new model is basically trust and inspire. And I think so that's the shift that's happening in any organization who will not be able to exercise flexibility and agility. I think so is doomed to fail in the days to come, because it's changing very fast, and we are trying to basically making these changes within, because we have to manage both the sides. We have some loyal, very old people. We do not want to alienate them, but equally we have to basically have the right balance, that we want to attract the young upcoming talent. So it's the right mix of a fresh talent and experienced people that who will run the show and build the organization for the future.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so I'd like to ask one more question. You use a very powerful narrative on the living wages, because usually the market sentiments on the wages are, regulatory compliance and the equities, etc. But you go beyond that, because that's not a mandatory requirement, but a discretionary thing, right? What is basically actually yours? Definitely, it's a goodwill to the society. What actually, how do you link it with the purpose of the organization? Because I think that's something that's applicable to the mass segment of the society, because I would like to hear your thoughts on that.
So Zahid Saab, you know what? I did a social experiment on this back in 2012 when I was heading sales function in Pakistan. And at that time, I remember that, when I joined sales function, I was told that, we have around 8,000 people, the sales force, and there's an attrition rate of 40%.
Mhm.
I said, wow, that's huge. And then you basically, calculated how much does it mean in the loss of business, that 40% attrition. It worked around to be around 2 billion rupees of a turnover loss because of this 40, because every time, new person come in, we have to actually train them and retrain them. And by the time, they become productive, they leave the organization. So we said, we went down, we said, okay, fine. What's the real reason behind them actually leaving the organization? And at that time, we were paying 14,000 rupees, which was, and the minimum wage was at that time was 12,000 rupees. And of course, anyone who would offer them 500 rupees more, they would leave the organization to join another organization. Yeah, because for them, even 500 rupees value a lot. So we said, okay, fine. So, the problem is their wage. So we went to them and we took a punt, bit of a leap of faith, that, what we'll do, we will double your salary over the next 3-year period. Yeah. And as you perform, you'll continue taking your salary up. So first year, we basically increased the salary by around 35%, I still recall. Our attrition plummeted from 40 to 20. And then we basically, over the next 2 years, we another further tipped their salary up. Then we basically offered their parents free medical, their children, not free schooling, but we said we will pitch for 2/3, 1/3 you pay from the pocket. And lo and behold, after 4 years, our attrition came from 40 to 4.
Wow.
And our business doubled, literally doubled volumetrically. So what we added in the last 5 years, it took us 70 years to do, we did in 5 years. And that was my first social experiment, that when you look after the employees, they look after your business. And when I came to this position, when I was responsible for the whole organization with the factories and the, all the workers, we said, this is a clear commercial case, while it has other moral benefits that you basically need to pay to someone which you find ethically compliant, not only legally compliant, but they will look after your business. They will not leave. And when they'll not leave, you retain the experience. When you're more experienced people, they drive your business better. So there's a clear commercial case, before, and therefore, whenever someone asks this question, I said, listen, I'm not going to be telling you a moral story. I'm telling you, it's a clear commercial case that when you look after your people, they look after your business even better.
Excellent. So I think it's a perfect example of the social and the business case. So equally win-win for society and also for the organization. Thank you so much. I think very powerful talk, and thanks for maintaining such a high level of energy at the end of the day. I think all the audience are having very positive comments about your the talk, and definitely. So we would like to make a short clips also of the conversations that you have, and with your clear and subsequently we'd like to pass on to the community so that they can benefit from it. And with this, we would like to come to the end of the session. Once
Thank
again,
you.
thanks for your participation, for your sharing your thoughts, the accomplishment of the Unilever and all the great things that you are doing. So ladies and gentlemen, with this, once again, I'm grateful to each one of you for your patience listening, for your participation and engagement. We will look forward to have more such opportunities in the future. We would like to share the recording of the session after the screening of the candidates with everyone so that you can all benefit. All the best. Take care of yourself. Allah Hafiz. Bye. Thank you.
Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz. Allah.